My parents married me to a billionaire dog in exchange for millions. My name is Amelia and I am just 16 years old, but in all these 16 years of my existence I have never been loved. I am the last born of 3 daughters. My parents had desperately wanted a male child, so when I was born a girl they resented me. Their hatred was so deep that I became nothing more than a slave in my own home. While my family dined at the table, I sat in the backyard eating from broken plates and drinking from a leaking cup. I was the only child who never went to school, church, or even family gatherings. In fact, only a few close relatives knew I existed because my parents kept me hidden from the world. My sisters treated me worse than a pest, and over time I became numb to their cruelty. I had accepted my fate until the unimaginable happened. One day, my immediate older sister, Jacinta, fell gravely ill. My parents spent almost all their money, but her condition only worsened. The doctors said she needed a heart transplant, and the cost was beyond anything my family could afford. Then, one evening, my father sat in the living room, devastated, watching the news, when a shocking headline flashed across the screen. A wealthy man was offering a huge sum of money in exchange for a young girl to marry his dog. And that was the moment my nightmare truly began. At first I thought it was a joke. Who in their right mind would marry a dog? But when I saw the way my father's eyes lit up, I knew it wasn't a joke to him. That night, my parents whispered in their room for hours. The next morning they called me in. My mother's voice was softer than usual, almost sweet. "Amelia," she said, forcing a smile, "would you like to do something that will make us proud?" I didn't answer. I knew better than to trust her kindness. My father didn't bother pretending. "You are getting married," he announced, "and we will finally have enough money to save your sister's life." I was confused. Married? To whom? No man had ever looked at me twice, and my parents never let me out of the house. Then my mother said it. "To a dog." I laughed. A dry, bitter laugh. Surely they were joking. Surely even they wouldn't stoop this low. But their faces were serious. My father clenched his jaw, already irritated by my reaction. "You should be grateful," he snapped. "You will finally be useful for something." Tears burned my eyes, but I didn't dare let them fall. "I'm not an animal," I whispered. My mother scoffed. "And yet you eat outside like one." I felt like I couldn't breathe. My heart pounded in my chest as the walls of the tiny room closed in on me. My whole life they had treated me like I was nothing, and now they were selling me like an object. "No," I said, shaking my head. "I won't do it." Before I could react, my father's hand flew across my face. The slap was so hard I fell to the ground, my cheek burning. "You don't have a choice," he growled. I wanted to run, to scream, to beg, but I knew it was useless. No one would help me. That was the night they sold me. 2 days later, a black SUV arrived in front of our house. A tall, well-dressed man stepped out. He didn't even look at me as he handed my father a briefcase. And just like that, I was gone. The moment I was shoved into the back seat of that sleek black SUV, I knew my fate was sealed. The man who had come to get me barely spoke a word. He simply gestured for me to get in, his expression cold and unreadable. As we drove away, I glanced back at the house I had called home, hoping, praying that someone, anyone, would run after the car and stop this madness. But my parents stood by the doorway, counting the money, their faces filled with satisfaction. I couldn't try escaping last night because my dad locked me up in the storeroom with heavy padlocks. I was only set free immediately the black SUV arrived to take me. Tears streamed down my face, but I bit my lip to keep from sobbing. Crying wouldn't change anything. The ride was long, stretching into hours. I had no idea where we were going, and I was too afraid to ask. The man beside me, who I assumed was the driver's boss, finally broke the silence.